Hey Royals, welcome back. On the way in, make sure that you subscribe, like, and share this video. Hope you enjoyed today's topic. It is not a good one, so trigger warning. Today we are going to be talking about the Caucasian couple from West Virginia, or in West Virginia, that obtained 5 children in Washington, and they enslaved them. So they have been living as enslaved children. It was Janine Whitefeather, age 62, and Donald Lance, age 63. Let's start with this short clip of a brief overview about how I feel about the topic to begin with. I share the same sentiments, so let's go.
I've mentioned this before on this show. People think slavery ended in 1865. Through convict leasing and other things, black people have always had to deal with the possibility of being enslaved again. And now in 2024, we have kids having to go through things that my ancestors went through, and it's horrifying.
Last 30 seconds.
14% of this country is a black population, yet 25% of all kids in the child welfare system are black. There's a serious racism problem in the foster care and the child welfare system.
Okay, so unfortunately, this is something that I talk about often when I do discuss things about the black topics. They're just reality. Enslavement hasn't changed. It just looks different. And unfortunately, there are situations like this that are happening intentionally all over the world. The unfortunate piece is they go unseen because neighbors don't report, people don't report, family doesn't report, and the children are often too scared or don't even know what to do to become out of that predicament. I think it's very sad, and I think, like they said, we have a great amount of work to do, but it starts with the actual system that is allowing these things to happen. I do agree, if we could keep children in their homes and give some of these single mothers credit that are losing their children for no reason other than they cannot provide for them, instead of providing resources, they're taken away. Let's get into the next clip where we get a brief overview of the entire scenario, and I'll be right back.
It's no secret how deep racism goes in this country, yet somehow we're still stunned by cases like the one we're bringing you tonight. We begin with a case out of West Virginia. Janine Whitefeather and Donald Lance, a white couple, are accused of treating their 5 adopted children like slaves. We know for sure 3 are black, according to the indictment. Prosecutors say the children were also targeted and adopted because of their race. The pair was arrested last fall. This was after a wellness check turned into a reveal about the living conditions of the children. 2 of the children, 14 and 16 years old, were found living in a barn outside. Neighbors tipped law enforcement off. Deputies discovered there were limited resources in that barn. The teens only had a small porta potty, no running water, or a mattress. According to neighbors, the children were not allowed inside of the home, the main house, and had to do farm labor outside instead. Whitefeather denies the allegations and says the barn was simply a teenage clubhouse. Both Whitefeather and Lance are now behind bars as they wait for a trial to begin September 9th.
Y'all, this is some shit. I can't believe, I don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand how anybody could do something like this to this degree. And a clubhouse, I don't understand. And here's what I also don't understand. Great, you brought them back and you increased the bond from 200 to 500. 500? Only 500? I don't understand. I don't understand. And you have questions? I don't understand. You saw all for yourself. How do you have questions? Is it their property? Yes. Are those children awarded to them? Yes. Did they say that they are captive as well? No. So I don't understand how there are any questions. I really don't understand why money is wasted on trial for things like this. I just don't, because the information is all there. The proof is there. I mean, exhibit A through Z is there. So I really don't understand any of this, and I don't think that we will ever understand. Do I understand the laws? I understand the laws. Okay, I can read, and I can hear. I think that, well, I know that when I say I don't understand how people can be this evil. I don't understand quite honestly, sometimes how God allows these things to happen. Because yes, I know that if I make a mistake and I have to suffer the consequences of my mistake, whether intentional or unintentional, as an adult, I get some of those. But from a child, what could a child possibly do that you can tell me that, well, it's because of this or that? I don't understand how this type of life is what, and I get it, it's our mistakes as adults and having children when we're not ready and doing all of these things, but who's to say that's even a case? It's a woman that I'm going to do a story time on a little bit later this week that literally didn't do anything, and she's fighting to get her child back, a black child, and don't have a black child that is just simply gorgeous. And some family cannot have a child, they will do things to get your child taken away. Wait till you hear that one. But let's get into the father's perspective, or a father's perspective on the topic. That is how the question was asked. So let's get into it.
As a parent hearing this story, and we have learned that the judge admonished them in court in another hearing, saying, I have never in my life seen anything like this. Your bond was $200,000, come back, it is now $500,000 each.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the judge did the right thing by increasing the bond, but as a parent, absolutely, it's downright deplorable, right? It's not even just disgusting, but it's purely evil at this point, right? And but to go back to the point about them raising the bond, you know, people have been talking about the foster care system and adoption regulations and things like that. Chances are there wasn't an adoption agency or any foster care system involved in this case, because they raised the bond with allegations of like human trafficking. So we don't even know how these kids ended up in their care in the first place.
We do know they were adopted, or they received their custody in Washington State and then moved to West Virginia. Were people wise? Were people getting concerned about what they saw in Washington, and that's why they moved to West Virginia? That's a question we still have to explore.
For me, I'm with this man. It's no other word to use than evil. Who wakes up and says, let me go and adopt innocent, beautiful children, that if they are in that space, adopt, take custody of, we don't know what that looked like, the exact word for it. Nobody knows that yet, but because there are different processes for them. Who says, I want to go and, well, I guess you don't call them people. I want to go and get X amount of property so that I can completely do all the evil and horrific things that are in my brain. What I will appreciate, because I have to find something, y'all, please don't be mad at me. What I will appreciate is they have not said mental illness for this shit. But you actually have one. You actually have one. So listen, okay? Listen, Linda. When it's actually a mental condition, the person usually doesn't claim the mental condition. They are demonic. I don't understand. Baby, listen. And if this happens a couple years ago, so why wasn't it an immediate arrest? I don't understand. Next clip.
Two things come to mind. The child welfare system, which is an institution that really needs some serious reform. There was talk about defunding the CPS and foster care system. It's not there to protect the children in cases like this. That's a whole other issue. The institutions that are meant to support children can sometimes hurt them. And the other thing I think about is the trauma that's instilled on these kids for a lifetime. We talk about something called adverse childhood experiences, neglect, abuse, poverty, unhealthy sanitary conditions, poor parenting. Those are things that can affect those children for a lifetime, that can create PTSD, anxiety, depression, poor relationships, poor jobs, crime. Those are very serious outcomes for those children.
Okay, so Miss Ma'am is accurate. The systems that are put in place, right? They're put in place and they're tied back up to these laws, right? These laws over here. These laws over here have to identify me as a person first. These ideas that and laws and policies and procedures and resources and all of these things that are put into place have to first see me as a human being, right? If that does not happen, then you're a part of the problem. What I will say is that I am well aware that humans are humans. I don't care if you're a damn pastor, priest. I don't care if you are a monk, a nun. I don't care about any of those things. Here's what I mean by I don't care about them. You're still human. So if something is in you that's bad, something later happens and takes you over the edge, is one small line from sanity to insanity, you're still a human just like me. I don't know if it's past triggers and traumas. Some people get into these fields and these places to go back and intentionally do damage. Like we say, who polices the police, right? Who polices people that deal with children? Because of those children, no shade, no offense, but there are equally as horrible things happening in predominantly white, upscale, high class, beautiful families. There are children suffering. You don't hear about those children getting snatched out left and right. But in the hood, where somebody might be eating top ramen, two people might be sharing one, or you didn't eat that night, or you snatching those like hotcakes. Not providing resources, not helping those people. And yes, I get it. Nobody told you to be in that situation. Well, let's think about this. With the law that's enacted in several states, and I'm sure going to spread like wildfire, if you're telling Miss, I don't want to be a mom because I'm not ready, that she doesn't have a choice, then how many more kids are going to end up in the system? Because there's no resources. Let's talk about that. Nobody sees that this is a domino effect. Nobody sees that maybe that girl, you don't know what happened to her for her to get there. But the end result is a child. The end result is now that they are here, and them being here actually gave you a job, foo-foo head. I don't understand that either. People be so angry in their roles dealing with a population that needs help. But if that population wasn't there, you wouldn't have a job. And I thought you were supposed to have that job in that population because, well, this is what you motherfuckers say in the interview when we interview. I want to give back. I want to do this. I want to do that. You want to know what your check look like, get your student loans written off, and now we know some of you people have it in the back of your head that you want to do evil things. You are thinking somehow how to make money off of it, how to be mean to somebody and get back at them for the thing that your mama did to you when you was 2 years old. Y'all some twisted motherfuckers. Next clip. Jesus.
And Todd, we've heard that the 16-year-old boy in this case reeked and had sores on his feet. It was so bad the neighbors could smell it.
It just, if you look at the images, it looked like an old school plantation. The shed, the barn looked like a slave shack. It's just, like David said, it's just evil. And to think in 2024, you still have people who see black people and children at that as property, you know, just to use for their own purposes and stuff like that. The only way to describe it is evil. This is for the first time in my being on this show, I'm just flabbergasted. I have really nothing to say about how this is, but this is why we should take racism seriously. This is why when people talk about certain things, we should listen to them, because it's so easy to fall back into the trap of yesteryear when things happen that were this atrocious. You know what I mean? It's people would do evil things to people, to innocent people. So we have to really be careful about, you know, the race relations in this country and stuff like that, and so we won't fall back into that trap again.
Okay, so now my new question is, if Officer whomever busts into Mr. Johnson's house, Mr. Jackson's house, Mr. Gonzalez's house, and you look around and you don't see no paycheck stubs, you busting down that motherfucker like the SWAT team, right? You coming in with the SWAT team, and you're not going to ask me where I got the money to cover these things, right? You're going to tell me where I got that money from, and you're going to make me prove otherwise to you. And until then, the story I made up, or the story cop made up, is the story that's real, right? I need to understand why it's, oh, how did they get this money? Because they don't have jobs. The way that the legal system plays in our face, right in front of our face, my only ask, see, this would be one of these times where you can say something like this, because you foo-foo heads that's saying if Trump was just released or basically able to still run and he has these things, then we should just let everybody do it. No, you shouldn't. You sound dumb. But this, something like this, if you are coming into my home and then telling me, because I don't have a job, that this is how I got the money, especially when you see criminal activity around my property, that would be an educated guess, right? You don't need an educated guess. We just saw. But if you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, the innocent until proven guilty, the, oh, you know, maybe they got it from a trust fund, or, you know, maybe somebody gifted them these things, I'm going to need that same type. Give me that same chill. Give me that same chill. No, you don't do that at all. You go in and you run a muck, and you come in busting in. I need to know how they still have windows on their house. I need to know how they still had a front door. Even the shed looks intact. Oink though? There is a smell so bad. A smell? How long does something have to happen before it smells? The neighbors were able to tell you that they know for sure that they're not able to go into the regular house. Shout out to the neighbors. Thank you. Let's watch this last clip, child. I think it's one more. I don't know. My head hurt, and I won't have no opinion after it. I don't understand.
And of course, we heard from the judge and prosecutors that these kids were targeted because of their race. This is why those parents went after them.
So that's why we need to take a serious look at the child welfare system. We don't know what happened to these kids, but did you know that only 15% of all cases in which children are taken away from their parents involve physical violence? A lot of them involve neglect. We're talking about maybe there's not enough food at the table, maybe they weren't clothed properly, maybe mom or dad had an addiction problem, things that stem from trauma. If we can address keeping families together and address things like poverty and prosperity and economic prosperity, maybe we can keep families together so we don't see these situations. Something has to seriously be done about that institution.
Okay, so here's my action, right? We need an action, because those of us that care, we need something to keep us from looking at everybody like they're like that, right? And then we need something to keep our antennas up as well, right? Scan your neighborhood. Do you think anybody around you is acting crazy? Do you think anything looks out of place? Are any of these things happening? Does some child look unsafe? Does some wife look unsafe? Does some husband look unsafe? Does some elderly person look unsafe? For things that actually look like it could be a red flag, if you feel safe to do so, and I have to say if you feel safe to do so, because there's some areas, situations, all of those things where it's just so unsafe and that you can't. Well, it's anonymous numbers that you can call. So Google an anonymous number that you can call if you need to report something. But pay attention as much as you can, because there's so much happening in this world still today.
And we're hearing that they also sold a $700,000 ranch and a $200,000 house, I think,
the house
as well.
That they were in.
And many and prosecutors are questioning how they were able to get that money, whether those kids played a role in forced labor to pay for those things.
I mean, we don't know, but it would seem so. Like they had no source of income that the judge knew about. So how are you making this type of money? They're enslaving people.
Yeah.
You know, they're trafficking kids. You know, they think it's 1824, not 2024. And like Chow said, we have to start at the root and fix some of the problems that people are having that lead to this situation, because there's no child that should be. These kids are going to be traumatized for life. And the excuses that they use, oh, it was a clubhouse. When I was a teenager, I didn't want nothing to do with a clubhouse. I wanted to hang out with my friends and do normal things. That's elementary stuff. And the fact that the cops had to pry the door open. If that's a clubhouse, why can't they come and go?
Right.
So all of that is nonsense. They are enslaving people.
In so many different places, and people need help. And if we would help, they could still be here. We could help. Maybe that those years that the child is suffering can be, the person is suffering, they could be minimized, and they could start getting into the resources they need to be helped. Because after this, those children are not screwed for the rest of their life. By the blood of Jesus, I don't claim that over anybody. They're not. They're going to be okay. They're going to get the resources that they need. They are somehow going to be touched by God and all of the people that could do amazing things to help them. It's going to fuel them to go out into the world and do amazing things. It's going to fuel them to remain in therapy for the rest of their lives, because they're never going to forget. And at different avenues of their life, they're going to be things that trigger them. My hope and my prayer, and I know it's going to happen for them and everybody that needs it. You have to think big, right? You have to think with your whole heart and what God said he will do. And we have seen certain things happen. So I know it's going to happen for them. I'm grateful that they didn't release who those children are, their pictures or anything like that. Last action item, if you are able to, in your neighborhood or something, I'm always going to charge with, do whatever you can to help in a space. Boys and Girls Club, be a mentor. Hell, sometimes be a mentor to somebody your own age. Elder support, anything that you could do to help somebody else that child may have been them and you didn't meet them till they were 32. And you didn't know, but now we know all of these things now, have all of these resources. If we could help somebody, just try to help. And I know that there's such a fine line because people are manipulators, all of these things now. Use your discernment, help with your whole heart, so that the same effect that if somebody is standing on the side of the road and you give them whatever you give them, you're giving from the heart, so your concern isn't what they do with it or anything like that. Do what you can as often as you can, and let it be in the place where your passion is. That will kind of help. That is it from me. If there are any additional clips, because I chopped it up and then did this, I'll plug them in the end and then we'll talk about it in the comments. So on the way out, don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment below. To all my new subscribers, thank you for subscribing. I hit a new milestone and I'll be sharing it later. Thank you again for tuning into Melanin Madam. I appreciate all my Crown Royals and have an amazing Wednesday. I'm putting this out right now. Have an amazing Monday. Goodbye.